You absolutely
Yeah.
did it. What's interesting is that first year that he won, before he won, he had his Ride for the Roses event in Austin. And when he was on the radio show, he was talking about how he picked up Miguel Indurain at the airport. And Miguel says, "Where have you been?" He says, "Well, I've been in the Pyrenees pre-riding the course." And he said, Miguel looked at me like I was crazy. "You were doing what?" Nobody was doing that back then when you guys started pre-riding the major stages.
No, and I think that was one of the big advantages we had compared to other teams, because you know, we had an American sponsor, and also the management back then was American, and they didn't really understand cycling very well.
Right.
And that for me was an advantage to sell my idea about, you know, we focus on the tour and this is what we have to do. Not having in mind any other races. All the other teams, they had a sponsor who was interested in, you know, having exposure in February in Spain, and then in the month of April in the classics, and we could kind of navigate in between that. We did some races, but we didn't really think that those races were important, and we basically focused everything on the tour, and it was a big gamble. But you know, the fact that we didn't have anything to lose was just worth the risk, I think, and it worked that first year, and then we tried to improve every single year on it. But you know, in '99 was definitely the biggest advantage we had over the competition, because afterwards, you know, other teams started to do the same thing, and nowadays everybody's previewing the courses and basically has the freedom to do so and risk it all for the tour.
In '99, as you guys are winning the race, Lance is winning for the first time, and nobody believes this is going to happen. What were your, obviously you thought this could happen, and as the team is coming into Paris, when you're going to win the Tour de France, what were your thoughts?
Well, that first year was just amazing feeling, you know. I mean, we were a very small team, as I said. I mean, they called us, back then they called us the bad news bears of cycling. If you look back at it, it was really amazing how we did it, because you know, we had, I knew that Lance was strong, and I basically thought that he could win it. We were on training rides in the month of May, and he did all those climbs, and what I saw there was enough for me. And I remember one particular stage he did by himself. It was just him in front of the car, and me and a mechanic in the back, and it was a mechanic who was, he was the ex-mechanic of Eddie Merckx, so he has seen something already. And I told this guy, I said, man, if this is going to be like this in July, nobody can beat him. But you know, we got to the Tour, and I still remember that first yellow jersey when he won the prologue in Le Puy du Fou in '99 was just such a special moment, because it was like the accomplishment of the whole plan. And even if back then we didn't know what was going to happen for the next 3 weeks, but it was like, you know, we had won our Tour already, because the team had never won a stage in the Tour, and they had never had the yellow jersey, and it just all felt like everything was right. But those 3 weeks of '99 were very special, because we were really not prepared for it logistically.
Sure.
You know, we had no bus back then. We had 2 rental campers, and they were pretty ugly.
And the crowds were huge around you guys.
One camper was the property of this mechanic, who was kind enough to lend us the camper, and then the other camper was a rental camper. It was, if you look back at it, it was amazing. And we were there in the Tour, and also for me, it was my first experience.
Sure.
We didn't even have a press person or anything like that to filter the press. But you know, we did it, and after '99, of course, it went a little bit easier. Postal was really on board, and they signed up for 4 more years, and the budget became a little bit bigger, so we had some more facilities. But that '99 Tour was very special.
Well, and then you go back in 2000, and in '99 there was no Marco Pantani and there was no Jan Ullrich. You come back in 2000, and you're not the Bad News Bears anymore. You're not going to surprise anyone.
A little bit. We were still a little bit, but not so much.
You got rid of the campers, though.
Yes, we got a bus.
You got buses, yeah. So as you go into that race, and people are going, okay, the other guys are here now. It's a tougher tour. How did you prepare for that year, knowing that obviously it was going to be tougher?
Yeah, well, our team was a lot stronger. You know, I mean, In '99, when I got on board, I didn't get to pick any riders because everybody was there already, and it was very difficult to select 9 riders who were able to do the Tour de France. I could maybe find 6, and then the 3 others were kind of, you know.
Pick them out of the audience here. It was like, hey, can you ride a bike? You're good. Okay, you're good. Yes, put your hand up. You want to race? Okay.
So in the off season, of course, we hired stronger riders, which
Right.
was definitely a bigger advantage. But you know, Lance was the favorite, and
Right.
And he was not in '99. You know, in '99 there were other riders who were the favorites. But basically, from day one, it was hard on the team, and it became a lot more difficult.
Sure.
And after, I would say the second one was still, you know, Ulrich was there and Pantani was there, and they had strong teams, so they thought they could beat Lance, and they shared a little bit of the work. But after those 2 victories, it became very difficult because, you know, it was clear that bit by bit the team started to race, not to win the Tour, but to make us lose, and that's very difficult.
Right.
Yeah.
When you look back now over 7 wins with Lance and 1 win with Contador, some of the moments that stick out for you, because obviously it's such an amazing run that I don't think anybody will ever duplicate. Some moments with Lance throughout the tours.
I don't know about that. I mean, I get that question a lot, and I honestly think it's going to be very difficult to win 7 tours and 7 consecutive tours. But you know what? I mean, records are there to be broken, and never say never. You know, I think it takes a young talent, and obviously Contador is not going to win 7 in a row. ASO took care of that. But you know, a record is there, and ultimately somebody's going to do better. But there's a lot of moments that really stick out, and I still remain with that first yellow jersey in the Le Puy du Fou. That was a very important moment. And then of course, you know, winning 5 was the end of the last stage. You know, 3 was very special because it was the 5th victory, and it was the most difficult one,
Right.
and we barely made it. And then 6 and 7 were kind of, you know, more a formality, I would say, because we were basically focused on winning the race, and everything else became a little bit unpleasant. There was a lot of negativism in France, right. And now looking back on it, you know, I can understand it a little bit because, you know, we were so busy with what we were doing, but it was, I think, for the spectators, it was boring. At least for the non-Americans. I think all the Americans enjoyed it.
We liked it a lot. The Texans didn't mind it either.
But in France they didn't like it, you know, and I think it's typical for the French mentality because I studied the history of the Tour a little bit, and one period we had 2 French riders. Jacques Anquetil and Raymond Poulidor.
Right.
And Anquetil was French, and he won 5 times. And Poulidor won it never won it. And he was the most popular guy.